The wind moved gently through the wheat fields of old Earth. Birds flew away in sudden panic, their cries echoing across the valley. Then the sound came, deep, powerful, and unlike anything human. Jacob Hale looked up from his tractor. The clear blue sky had turned red. Clouds twisted like smoke, and light from the heavens broke apart into fire. Then he saw it. A massive shadow covered his farm. It was no storm, no aircraft. It was a ship miles wide, made of dark metal that swallowed sunlight. The earth shook beneath it. Cows ran from their pens, birds vanished into the woods, and every machine around Jacob stopped working at once. The tractor died with a low cough. The radio went silent. Even his wrist monitor blinked and shut off. Jacob stepped off the tractor and stared. His heart didn't race. His hands didn't shake. He just took off his hat and squinted at the red sky above. All across the planet, alarms began to scream. The global network came alive with chaos. News channels, military alerts, and panic from cities far away. Unidentified ship detected, massive in scale, descending near Kansas sector. For the first time in a century, Earth had been found. The old treaties, the forgotten wars, the long silence, all of it ended in that moment. Humanity had lived in peace for so long that no one was ready for this. But in that quiet valley, there was only one witness. Jacob Hale, the farmer who had never left his land. He heard a deep roar, and then the air cracked like thunder. The alien ship touched down a few hundred meters from his barn, crushing soil and trees beneath it. The shockwave sent dust flying for miles. A ramp opened and General Korthal stepped out. The alien was tall, over 3 meters, covered in black armor that shimmered with green energy. His eyes glowed like burning glass. Around him marched soldiers in perfect formation, their weapons humming with blue light. Jacob didn't move. He just watched them cross his field, crushing his wheat beneath their boots. Korthal raised his head and spoke in a booming voice, his words translated by a machine on his shoulder. "I am General Korthal of the Dravok Empire. This world now belongs to us. Your species will serve." "Kneel, human." Jacob didn't kneel. He didn't even flinch. He brushed dust from his sleeve and said nothing. The general tilted his head, confused. "Is this your planet's defender? A farmer?" Laughter spread among the alien soldiers. They looked at Jacob like he was a joke, just a fragile, simple creature standing in front of them. But Jacob didn't respond. He just looked at Korthal with calm, steady eyes, the kind of eyes that had seen storms, wars, and loss. The general frowned. Something about that silence made him uneasy. He motioned to his troops. "End this. Take him." 10 alien soldiers raised their plasma rifles. The air filled with a sharp hum as their weapons charged. Jacob didn't move an inch. Then, without warning, every gun went dead. The humming stopped. The lights on their weapons flickered out. The aliens looked at each other in confusion. Jacob still stood there, arms crossed. The ground began to tremble softly, a low vibration that grew stronger each second. The air felt heavier, thick with static and energy. "What is this?" one soldier shouted. Their scanners went blank. Their armor sensors froze. The general barked orders, but his voice trembled for the first time. "Find the source, now!" The aliens spread out, searching for a cause, but the tremor only grew worse. Even the great ship behind them began to hum in response, its energy field reacting to something deep underground. Jacob finally spoke. His voice was quiet but carried across the entire field. "You shouldn't have come here." The general turned toward him. "What did you say, human?" Jacob looked past him toward his old wooden barn. A faint blue glow shimmered from between the cracks of its door, soft at first, then brighter, pulsing like a heartbeat. Every sensor in the alien army screamed at once. Energy levels off the charts, unreadable power signatures. "General!" a soldier shouted. "There's something inside the structure." Korthal turned, his expression darkening. "A weapon?" Jacob didn't answer. The light from the barn grew stronger, spreading across the ground in waves. The machines on the alien ship began to shut down one by one. Drones fell from the air. Energy fields flickered out. Korthal's armor sparked. He ripped off his helmet, eyes wide. For the first time in many years, the proud warlord felt fear. Jacob took one slow step toward the barn, the blue light shining brighter behind him. His shadow stretched across the field like something ancient and powerful. The general's soldiers backed away. None of them dared fire again, and as the light from the barn reached the ship, A deep, echoing hum filled the valley, like the heartbeat of something massive, buried deep beneath the soil. The general clenched his fists. "What are you hiding, human?" Jacob stopped and looked over his shoulder. "The past," he said softly, "and you just woke it up." The blue light flashed once, so bright it lit the horizon. Every alien turned in shock. The machine screamed. The ground split slightly, releasing a pulse that rolled across the valley. The Dravok army didn't know it yet. But the unexpected war had already begun. The red light from the alien ship faded into a strange blue glow spreading from the barn. The ground was still shaking softly, and the Dravok soldiers had stopped moving. None of them had ever seen anything like it. Their scanners were blind. Their armor felt heavy, and even breathing inside their suits grew harder. General Korthal's voice roared through the silence. "Find the source! Destroy it if you must!" But his words were less confident now. He could feel something was wrong, something ancient, something dangerous. Jacob Hale stood between them and the glowing barn. His face was calm, his eyes reflecting the blue light. He didn't look angry. He didn't even look afraid. He simply said, "You don't want to open that door." A Dravok officer hissed, "He's bluffing." "Move!" The soldiers stepped forward, their heavy boots crushing the wheat. As soon as they crossed the fence line, the air began to hum again. The grass bent as if pushed by an invisible wind. Then, one by one, their weapons shut down completely. Sparks jumped from the barrels. The metal handles burned their hands. They dropped the rifles in panic. Korthal's eyes widened. "What kind of technology is this?" Jacob turned his head slightly. "Not technology," he said quietly. "It's older than that." The alien general raised his energy sword, bright and hissing, and pointed it at Jacob. "You think you can scare me, human? You are alone." Jacob didn't move. He looked at the sword for a long moment, then met Korthal's eyes. "I've been alone for a long time," he said. For a few seconds there was only wind. Then suddenly a massive shockwave burst from the barn. It didn't destroy anything, but it made every alien drop to their knees. Their armor lights flickered out. Their implants screamed with interference. Korthal struggled to stay standing. His vision blurred. It was like the air itself was pressing down on him. Jacob didn't move. The blue glow behind him pulsed slowly, almost like it was breathing. Then it stopped. Silence. The aliens gasped for air, recovering slowly. The general looked around. The glow had faded, the ground was still again, and the only sound was the creaking of the barn door in the wind. Korthal pointed toward Jacob. "Take him. I want answers." The soldiers, nervous but obedient, surrounded Jacob. They bound his hands with metal restraints and dragged him toward the ship. Jacob didn't resist. He just glanced back once at his old barn before disappearing into the ship's metallic hallway. Inside, the air was cold and mechanical. Bright lights lined the walls, and the sound of machines filled the corridors. The general followed him into the interrogation room, a metal chamber with humming energy coils. Jacob was chained to the floor. Still calm, still silent. Korthal slammed his fist against the control table. "What is that power on your land?" "Speak, human." Jacob looked up at him. "You wouldn't believe me if I told you," the general snarled. "Try me." Jacob leaned forward slightly, his voice low and steady. "That field was built long before your empire ever existed. You think Earth is weak? You think we are farmers because we forgot war. But this planet remembers." Korthal slammed his hands on the table. "Nonsense. Your kind lost the stars long ago." Jacob smiled faintly. "We didn't lose them. We buried them." The lights in the room flickered. The hum of the ship changed, slower, deeper. The soldiers watching from the control deck began to panic as their instruments went dark. "Sir," one shouted over comms. "Something's interfacing with our ship systems. It's coming from inside him." Korthal turned sharply. "Inside him?" Before he could react, Jacob's eyes flickered blue for half a second. The restraints around his wrists glowed, then fell apart like dust. The general stepped back. "What are you?" Jacob stood up slowly. "A mistake your kind should have left sleeping." He didn't attack. He didn't raise a weapon. He just looked around as if listening to something only he could hear. Outside the ship, the ground trembled again. The barn door creaked open, revealing a soft blue mist that rolled across the fields. The Dravok soldiers outside backed away, their sensors screaming warnings, energy readings far beyond known limits. Inside the ship, every system flickered. Lights dimmed. Engines stalled. Communications died. Jacob turned to the general. "You should leave." The general's pride burned. "No one orders me," he stopped mid-sentence. Through the ship's window, he saw something rising from beneath the earth. A massive circular structure, ancient and rusted, began to push through the soil. It wasn't a weapon, not exactly. It looked... The morning after the alien ship landed, the valley was quiet. Birds cautiously returned, and the wind rustled the wheat like nothing had happened. But the Dravok fleet hovered in orbit, casting dark shadows over the land. Inside their ship, General Korthal sat in his command chair, glaring at the valley below. His pride was wounded, his soldiers confused. One man had shut down their most advanced weapons. One farmer had defeated their systems without a fight. The general slammed his gauntlet against the control panel. "I will not be mocked by a human." "Find him!" Scans had failed. Drones had failed. Even satellites couldn't penetrate the strange blue energy that blanketed the farm. Korthal knew one thing. He had to face this human directly. On Earth, Jacob Hale worked quietly in his fields, his boots sinking in the damp soil. He repaired fences, tended the wheat, and listened to the soft hum of the land. The blue light under the barn glimmered faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat beneath the earth. He knew it wouldn't be long before the general came for him. The alien general landed in the valley again, descending in a smaller shuttle. The ramp hissed as it touched the soil. This time, Korthal carried only his energy sword, a weapon powerful enough to cut through the thickest steel. He stepped onto the ground, towering over the wheat. "Jacob Hale," he bellowed. "Face me, alone!" "If you win, I will leave this planet. Fail, and your world is mine." Jacob looked up from his work, calm as ever. "I was wondering when you'd get tired of waiting." Korthal's eyes narrowed. "Do you know what I am? What I command? I am a warlord. I have conquered worlds. You are nothing." Jacob wiped his hands on his pants and picked up a rusty farming shovel. He didn't say a word. The soldiers behind Korthal laughed. The duel would be over in minutes, they thought. One human against a warlord? Impossible. But as Korthal stepped forward, the ground trembled slightly beneath him. The air thickened. The blue glow from the barn pulsed faintly. Jacob stood still, watching him. His eyes were calm, almost serene. The duel began. Korthal swung his energy sword in a wide arc. The blade cut through the air, leaving streaks of green light. Jacob raised his shovel and blocked it, an ordinary tool, yet somehow it held. Sparks flew! The general recoiled. The soldiers gasped. How could a human block a weapon like that? Korthal roared in anger. "Move, strike me down." Jacob didn't move yet. He waited, his eyes scanning the general, anticipating every step. And then in one motion he sidestepped and tapped the sword. The blade swung past him, harmless. Korthal's eyes widened. "What?" Jacob's voice was calm. "You are fighting shadows." "Not me," the general charged. The earth shook under his armor. But every strike he made was predicted. Every swing missed. Jacob moved like water, light, fast, and impossible to track. The soldiers whispered among themselves, fear creeping into their voices. "He's faster than anything we've seen." "Impossible." "He's just a man." Korthal realized his training, his experience, even his alien instincts weren't enough. The human was anticipating every move, reacting before he could attack. The general stopped, breathing heavily inside his helmet. Sweat or condensation ran down his visor. His pride burned, but he also felt fear, real fear. Something in this human was not ordinary. "Who are you?" "What are you?" Korthal demanded. Jacob didn't answer. He swung the shovel lightly, not to hurt, but to tap the ground. The earth quivered. The general staggered, losing balance. "What trickery is this?" Korthal growled. Jacob finally spoke, his voice calm but strong. "No trick. This land is alive. It remembers. We are not alone." Korthal's rage turned to confusion. He glanced around. The wheat swayed unnaturally. The barn glowed faintly in the distance. The soil beneath their feet thrummed like a heartbeat. "This is impossible," Korthal muttered. Jacob walked closer, his shovel held casually at his side. "You came to conquer a farmer," he said. "But you woke something much older than your empire." The general swung his sword again, but the blade felt heavy, as if the air itself resisted him. The hum of the weapon changed, strange and unstable. Jacob blocked with his shovel effortlessly and tapped it lightly against the ground. The pulse from below sent Korthal staggering back again. The soldiers behind the general looked terrified. Their weapons failed. Their scanners failed. Even their implants buzzed uncontrollably. Jacob spoke again. You think humans are weak. You think we farm because we cannot fight, but we survive because we are patient. We fight only when it is necessary. Korthal's sword flickered in his hands. He realized something he hadn't felt in centuries. He was being outmatched not by strength but by understanding. Jacob's eyes glowed faintly blue for the first time during the fight. The general's armor shuddered. Sparks flew from his gauntlets. He stumbled, barely keeping balance. The soldiers whispered. He's not human. At least not normal. Jacob didn't strike. He didn't need to. Every movement of Korthal was anticipated. The general's frustration grew into fear, then into awe. What are you? He demanded again. Jacob looked toward the barn. I am what Earth built to protect itself, and you woke me too soon. The ground rumbled louder. The barn's blue glow expanded, bathing the valley in eerie light. The humans in nearby towns might have slept, but the old defenses had awakened. Korthal realized the duel was no longer about skill. It was about power he could not understand, a force that even his advanced alien technology could not match. He stepped back, lowering his sword slightly. You are not a farmer. You are something else, Jacob smiled faintly. And if you continue, you will learn why Earth always survives. The duel ended not with a final strike, but with a silent warning. The general backed away, confused and shaken, his pride bruised. The blue light faded slightly, but the hum remained in the soil beneath their feet. Jacob turned and walked slowly back toward his barn, his shovel resting on his shoulder, calm as if nothing had happened. Korthal stared after him, the wind blowing his cape. His soldiers, though loyal, were trembling. They knew something had changed. This human was not a simple creature. He is not alone, Korthal muttered, and I will find out what else Earth hides. Jacob reached the barn and paused at the door. The blue light pulsed once more like a heartbeat, welcoming him home. Not yet, he whispered. Not yet. Let them see what patience can do. The general's fleet above the planet waited, unaware that their first defeat was already written, not with weapons, but with the quiet, unstoppable power of a human who had farmed the land for decades and had learned the Earth's secrets. The unexpected war was only beginning. The valley was quiet again, but the silence was heavy. The wheat swayed gently in the wind, masking the tension that lingered like a storm cloud. Jacob Hale stood near his barn, his hands resting lightly on the old wooden door. Inside, the faint blue glow pulsed slowly, like the heartbeat of something alive. Above, the Dravok fleet hovered silently. Satellites and sensors scanned relentlessly, but the readings were useless. Every machine the aliens used failed to detect anything. The energy signatures were too strange, too old, like a memory that refused to die. General Korthal paced inside his command ship. He had seen the farmer block his attacks, shut down his weapons, and control the battlefield with simple movements. Nothing made sense. Report, he shouted to his officer. Sir, his power. It's not just human, the officer said, voice trembling. His DNA? It's modified. Part of an ancient program. He's a sleeper. Korthal froze. A sleeper? The officer nodded. The archives mention a human project from centuries ago, the Sleeper Program. It was meant to create guardians capable of surviving the galaxy's worst threats. They lived as humans, ordinary citizens until activated. This one. He matches the profile exactly. The general's jaw tightened. For centuries he had conquered worlds, crushed empires, and toppled civilizations. And now a farmer, a single human, had made him feel powerless. Impossible, Korthal muttered. That program was lost when humanity collapsed. Jacob, unaware of the technical discussion above, walked inside his barn. The blue glow was brighter now. Machines dormant for decades hummed faintly. Ancient consoles with scratched panels and unreadable symbols lit up. He approached a large crate at the center of the barn. With his hands he wiped off dust and rust. The blue light pulsed stronger as if responding to his presence. It's time, he whispered. Inside the crate was a device older than the modern world. It was round, metallic, engraved with symbols and glyphs. A faint hum escaped it, vibrating in the air. This was the Sentinel Core, the heart of the old human defense system. Jacob knelt and touched it. The barn seemed to breathe, the light moving like liquid. Images flashed in his mind. Ancient humans, battles fought across stars, secret weapons buried beneath Earth's surface. He could feel the power, dormant but awake, waiting for this moment. Back in the valley, Korthal landed a shuttle silently behind the barn. He intended to capture the human once and for all. His soldiers spread out, careful, scanning for traps. But every step they took was met with subtle resistance. Rocks moved slightly, the wind changed, shadows shifted unnaturally. "It's the land itself," one soldier whispered. Korthal frowned. "Nonsense. It's him. The human is controlling the ground." He stepped out, towering and armored. His energy sword hummed ominously. "Jacob Hale, come out! Face me again!" From inside the barn, Jacob's voice called softly, calm and confident. "You cannot." The morning sun rose over the valley, but it was not golden. It shimmered blue, filtered through a haze of pulsing energy. The Dravok fleet hung in orbit like black specks against the glowing sky. Unable to move, unable to fire. Their sensors screamed warnings, but the readings were incomprehensible. On the ground, Jacob Hale walked calmly through his fields. His boots sank into soil that seemed alive beneath him, vibrating faintly with energy. The barn behind him glowed brighter than ever, its blue light reaching across the valley, painting the wheat in ghostly hues. The general's shuttle landed again, smaller ships forming a tense perimeter. General Korthal stepped out, his armor scuffed from the previous duel, his pride wounded. His energy sword hummed, yet even it felt weaker in the strange, heavy air. "Human," he shouted, "face me. I will not be mocked again." Jacob didn't flinch. He rested his hands on the old wooden door of the barn. "You already lost, Korthal. You just don't see it yet," he said quietly. The general's soldiers whispered among themselves. Fear had replaced their confidence. They had seen weapons fail, the planet itself resist, and one human standing untouched at the center of it all. Jacob finally pushed open the barn door. A flood of blue light spilled across the valley, brighter than sunlight, warm yet humming with power. The Dravok fleet in orbit trembled. Their ships faltered as energy surged from the planet's surface. Inside the barn, massive machines stirred to life. Ancient warships, dormant for centuries, began to rise. The ground shifted, cracks opening as colossal frames lifted from beneath mountains, deserts, and oceans. The Sentinel Core at the center glowed like a heart, pulsing energy through the planet itself. Jacob stepped out, and for the first time, soldiers and aliens alike saw the true scale of what humanity had built. What is that?" one soldier gasped. The general's voice shook. "Impossible, those are ancient human warships, buried beneath the planet." Jacob didn't answer. He raised a hand, and one of the massive ships rose fully into the air, glowing blue with symbols etched across its hull. Energy arcs danced across the surface like lightning. The other ships followed slowly, deliberately. From towns, farms, and settlements across Earth, other humans emerged. Their eyes flickered faintly blue, farmers, miners, teachers, children, and for the first time they were connected. A hidden network, centuries old, had awakened. Every human in the area, trained or untrained, became a node in the planet's defense. The Dravok general raised his energy sword again. "This is impossible! One planet cannot harbor this kind of technology." Jacob stepped forward, the blue glow reflecting in his eyes. "You came for a farmer, Korthal, but you found Earth itself." The general swung his sword, energy crackling. The air shimmered as the blue light around Jacob moved with him, bending the attack aside. His shovel, simple and worn, now gleamed faintly as it absorbed and redirected the energy. "How?" Korthal whispered. Jacob smiled faintly. "This planet remembers, and we humans, we never forget." The Sentinel Core pulsed harder, sending shockwaves across the valley. Alien ships in orbit wobbled, then began to fall from the sky. Weapons failed mid-fire. Engines stalled. Drones plummeted like stones. The general's fleet was crippled and panic spread through the ranks. On the ground, Jacob walked calmly toward Korthal. The blue energy surrounding him coalesced, forming a faint humanoid shape behind him, massive and imposing, like a shadow of Earth itself. "You underestimated us," Jacob said softly. "You thought we were weak, that we farm because we cannot fight, but we survive. And when we awaken, We end wars before they reach our door. The general raised his sword, but even he could feel it bending under the invisible force. The humanoid energy shadow behind Jacob moved as if alive, and every step the farmer took caused the land itself to respond. "Your empire," Korthal muttered. "It will fall." Jacob didn't answer. Instead, he tapped the ground lightly with his shovel. The blue energy rippled outward like a tidal wave, reaching the Dravok fleet in orbit. Every ship trembled, engines sparking, weapons discharging into the air ineffectively. From the horizon, more lights appeared. Blue energy pulses, faint at first, then stronger, appearing across continents. Ancient human warships buried for centuries rose one by one, guided by the network Jacob now controlled. They were not just ships, they were weapons, stations, and guardians built for survival and war. Korthal watched in disbelief as humanity's hidden arsenal revealed itself. His soldiers whispered frantically. "It's an army." "From the planet itself." Jacob looked at the alien general, calm as ever. "You wanted war, Korthal, but this is the awakening." Above, the blue light filled the sky, connecting every ship, every human, every hidden sentinel core. The valley was no longer just a farm. It was the command center of a planet-wide defense system. Korthal's pride burned, but fear now consumed him. For centuries, he had fought countless enemies and toppled empires, but he had never faced a species that hid its power so well, or a planet that could fight back. Jacob's voice carried across the land. "Your fleet cannot conquer what you cannot see. You cannot destroy what you never understood." The Dravok soldiers dropped their weapons, trembling. Their warlord was helpless. The human, the farmer, the planet itself. They were united, unstoppable, and awake. Jacob turned slowly, walking toward the horizon, toward the ancient warships rising from beneath the earth. Each step radiated calm authority, a reminder that humanity's patience and resilience were far greater than the galaxy had ever imagined. "This is just the beginning," Jacob whispered to the land. "The galaxy will know that Earth never surrenders." The blue light pulsed one final time, bright enough to be seen from space. A new era had begun, the awakening of humanity, hidden for centuries, now fully revealed. The Dravok Empire had come to conquer a single planet, and found the power of an entire species waiting silently beneath the soil. Korthal knelt, realizing he had underestimated humans. For the first time, he understood fear. Jacob Hale, the farmer, the sleeper, stood tall, calm as ever. Around him, the ancient warships floated above the fields. The Sentinel Corps pulsed in the barn. Humanity had awakened. The unexpected war was no longer a battle of one human against an empire. It was a planet rising against the stars themselves, and above the Earth the galaxy watched, unprepared for what was coming. The skies above Earth were no longer dark. They glowed blue with power. From orbit, the Dravok fleet floated helpless. Thousands of alien ships, engines dead, systems offline. They had come to conquer a primitive planet. Now they hung silent in its orbit like insects caught in a web of light. On the ground, Jacob Hale stood in his wheat field, the wind whispering through the golden stalks. His shovel rested against the soil, glowing faintly. The barn behind him hummed softly, its blue pulse slower now, steady, alive. The world was quiet but not peaceful. The quiet before judgment. General Korthal knelt in the dust a few meters away. His armor cracked, his energy sword buried in the dirt. The mighty warlord of the Dravok Empire now looked small, broken beneath the endless sky. "You don't understand what you've done," he said hoarsely. "The Empire will not stop. They will send more ships, stronger ones, entire fleets." Jacob's eyes glowed faintly as he looked down at the alien general. "Let them come," he said quietly. "Earth has waited long enough." The wind shifted, carrying the faint sound of engines from above. The first of the awakened human warships rose higher into the sky, massive relics of steel and memory. They moved slowly but with purpose, their hulls marked by old scars and symbols that hadn't been seen for centuries. Each ship hummed with ancient energy. They were not built for conquest. They were built for warning. "You think this is victory?" Korthal snarled. "This is madness. You will bring death to your species again." Jacob looked at the horizon where the blue light shimmered like a sunrise. "Death never scared us, General," he said. "We've met it too many times to fear it." He turned his gaze upward. In the orbiting Dravok fleet, a single ship tried to break free. Its engines sputtered to life for a few seconds before collapsing again. Blue energy rippled through space, disabling it instantly. Across the galaxy, sensors from other empires began detecting strange energy signatures from Earth. Rumors spread fast. Humans are back. Earth has awakened. The old defenders live again. But on Earth, Jacob remained calm. He knelt and placed his hand on the soil. The ground responded, pulsing once like the heartbeat of something immense. A voice spoke through the air, not from Jacob, but from the Sentinel core itself. It was deep, ancient, almost human. Protocol Omega reactivated. Defense systems online, awaiting command. Jacob closed his eyes. Memories not his own filled his mind. Voices from the past, engineers, soldiers, leaders who had built the planet's hidden network. They had known this day would come. The day when the galaxy would forget humanity and need to remember. He opened his eyes and looked at Korthal. "Do you know why I'm a farmer, General?" The alien looked up, confused. "What?" Jacob's voice was quiet but firm. "Because the soil never lies. Because even after war and ruin, life grows back. We don't conquer to rule, we survive to rebuild. That's what your empire never learned." The general growled. "You think words will save you from the Dravok Empire?" Jacob shook his head. "No, but lessons might." He raised his hand. The blue light around